For those of you who saw our earlier video on veneers, woods used by Rolls-Royce and Bentley, its current selection is fairly large, or the options are fairly broad. A number of different woods for both Rolls Bentley, maybe a dozen or more, plus bespoke options for the client who wants something unusual. But for the period after the war, or from say the 60s on until the late 90s, standard factory cars were beautifully appointed with walnut burl, and pretty much only walnut burl, and in a fairly characteristic layout on the door caps. This is a door cap, a part of which the rest of the car has been sent to us for restoration refinishing. That's a later car. This is a 1998 Spur. But this is a typical layout of a door cap. It's solid wood on top, stained dark. It has a little bit of burl, book matched, and then a picture frame edge of crossband, in this case Australian walnut. And what it renders is this beautiful burl, which should be the high point of this decorative veneer, to a secondary almost point in that there isn't much of it exposed. So with our customer, we decided that to highlight the wood in this factory 1972 Wraith being like a Shadow but long wheelbase, and therefore the rear doors are about 4 inches longer than a standard door. We decided to take a different approach, select a very active grain, keeping traditionally in walnut burl, but wrapping it from what would be the window area all the way down to the bottom of the door. And then to give it a bit of bling here, we've inlaid ebony, Gaboon ebony, and a crossband of beeswing satinwood. And satinwood is a gorgeously golden wood, and the beeswing figure gives an added chatoyance, and particularly three-dimensional under a deep, rich finish like this. The rest of the car, of course, is veneered also. No more no more crossbands. The instrument fascia, book match here, leads into the speedometer fascia where of course the driver is. Center console was modified slightly to remove a hole that was factory 8-track, I believe, and then book matched, of course, in the same veneer. And the vanities also typically have a crossband around them, and again, you end up with very little burl. So we left the crossband on this to accentuate the important wood, being the Claro burl. And you can see that the right and left vanity are a mirror image of each other by selecting consecutive leaves of veneer. This is the glove box and the surround that goes around the glove box, and there's a map light switch that fits into this hole. Interesting thing about this piece of wood, well, let me backtrack just slightly. The Silver Shadow followed the Silver Cloud era about 1966, 67. At that time, the first year or so of Shadows had a lot of wood, including picnic tables and a full built-in dash, very similar to a Silver Cloud. Then they moved away from that by the late 60s and came up with this configuration of wood. And this is a 1972. However, this piece of wood, while it is veneered and finished and matches the rest of the dash at the factory, is built into the dash. So that to have this removed, one has to have a certain amount of understanding of cutting it out of the structure of the dash in order to send it along for refinishing. An odd choice of construction. These last two pieces are two pieces that meet at the base of the windshield, like this, and the tops are solid walnut, and then they are laminated to plywood underneath. These frequently, almost always, delaminate. These are in pretty good condition. So we spoke a little bit about the doors, but I wanted to use them to demonstrate the symmetry and the beauty of book match. And that technique, or that design tool, is perhaps subtle, but it carries an impact even for people who aren't aware that they're looking at a book match. There's some kind of unity, there's some kind of a focus on the book match itself. As you look upon the door, there's kind of like a focal point here, and then it moves off to the left and right. Now, this requires 2 consecutive leaves to get a single book match. We've got 4 book matches, so we have 8 consecutive leaves of this particular veneer. And that way we can have essentially an identical figure between the two front doors, the driver's side and the passenger, and the two back doors, and between the rear door and the front doors. And this gives a unity into the car, and using, of course, the same bundle of veneer for the full interior, carries it off as a highly planned and designed decoration. So to cap off this new bespoke style interior in a coach-built setting, we've added a custom steering wheel based upon the original factory wheel that was in the car. The original factory wheel is a small black plastic wheel, small grip, and thoroughly unattractive. Certainly not befitting the interior of a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley. So we make this with a larger grip. We've discussed this in other videos, but it's good to see how this can add a certain luxury to the interior. And certainly to a driver, the steering wheel is the most direct interface to the car. He sees it, feels it, drives it. So what we've done, we've built up the original, which is, you know, that deep black plastic, small grip, added a veneered horn button, and leathered the spoke and the hub, or the spokes and the hub, in a black Bentley leather. Also carrying over the theme of the doors, we've got inlaid beeswing satinwood with 2 lines of gaboon ebony. And the color combination is striking. Down here we have more sapwood, so we've got this fawn colored background, a book match here, a book match up here that comes down and carries the theme left and right to the bottom, and then of course the horn button to finish it off. This kind of work is reminiscent of the famous coach builders that built unique vehicles for clients. And certainly for the customer, for the client that has a Rolls or Bentley or other car that wants to personalize it beyond what might be available anywhere else, we do this and have done this, and I think this is a pretty exciting option, and once it's in the car, will be even more striking.